Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Next Gen AI with Sai YouTube channel. So today we are going to uh, see about the LangGraph. So basically, I'm creating a series on LangGraph, starting from zero. We'll do some basic and we'll do some basic practicals and build some upon application on this using LangGraph. Okay, so but today's session is all about the basic. We'll understand some of the terminologies, and then we'll do basic hello world kind of practical on LangGraph, so that you will understand how you can use LangGraph in your projects or in your any kind of applications you are building. So let's understand what is LangGraph first. So LangGraph is a framework that helps you to build, uh, manage a complex and agentic application. As you guys been using LangChain, Llama Index, Swift AI, and there are many other framework is available in the market to build the LLM application. But nowadays, since 2025, the industries are focusing more on agentic based applications. So when we want to build the agentic application, we need a framework that supports the agenting kind of work, right? So to do this, LangChain team has come up with this framework called as a LangGraph that helps to build the agentic application. Now, when I say agentic application, it means you know that to achieve some task or to achieve some complex task, you need a special kind of agents or special kind of team to do specific task. So if I want to give simple example, let's say there is a marketing team in your company who wants to do the marketing of their product, right? So to do this, you want multiple people, multiple skill set people in your team, and each team member has specific tasks to perform, right? For example, the first member whose work is to do the research, second person whose job is to review the research has been done, third person who's analyze the work and check with the internal team and then come up with the proper marketing marketing uh, what I can say, the marketing plan, right? So there are multiple. Similarly, we know that there are other domain as well who require a lot of small activities to be performed to achieve a some goal. So this activity is nothing but the companies are now trying to achieve through the LLM, and those activities called as agents. So to build this complex agentic application, the existing LLM framework is not that much capable, and that is the reason LangGraph been developed by these people of LangChain, and so we are trying to understand how it works. So LangGraph is a kind of giving you the workflow. So when I say workflow means there are specific flow chart, okay, kind of application. So this flow chart is a comprises of node and the edges. So when I say node, so you know that is basic flow chart. I think everyone is aware of how flow chart works, right? So basic flow chart, right? There is a node, and this node is nothing but the activity, or I can say this node is nothing but the task, right? So each node is connected to other node. So this other node is also responsible for some of the activity or task, and this line is called as a edges. So when I say node, node is nothing but the activity. Edges are helping you to connect to the all these activity. Okay, so the flowchart which comprises of node and edges is nothing but the LangGraph, and then this is the basic definition. Now this LangGraph is built on top of LangChain. So the basic fundamental or the basic building block of LangGraph is a LangChain. So you will require to use the LangChain in the under this while you are building this kind of applications. Again, the second most important feature of LangGraph that it supports the cyclical workflow. So when I mention the cyclical workflow, it means uh, it is not the only in one direction. Okay, If let's say there are few tasks you are performing, let's say there are couple of node, right? So you perform this task, you perform this task, you perform this task, and you find this task has been done. So answer is yes or no, and you find answer is no. You again wanted to go back to the previous node to perform previous task if the answer is not satisfied. So when you see this kind of picture, so it's a kind of the cyclical workflow, right? This is what a cyclical workflow. So LangGraph supports this cyclical workflow. It allows the loop and the conditional branching. So this is the second advantage of this LangGraph, right? So I hope you understand what is the LangGraph. At least the definition now is clear to you. Now, why LangGraph is required? Okay, let's focus on that. The first foremost is that it manages the complexity. Okay, now we know that any autonomous agentic platform or any kind of system is a comprises of multiple tasks, multiple activities, right? So these kind of activities can be executed with the help of LangGraph, and it's a graph based model, so it definitely helps to manage the multiple agent, and even you can do the iterative process with the help of that. So you can definitely have, you can easily manage the complex work using the LangGraph. The second most important, it has a state and the context persistence. Means what? It automatically save and update the state. Now, for example, let's say you are building a chatbot for your organization or for any kind of application. So you need to maintain a conversation history, right? And this conversation history is nothing but the state. So LangGraph gives the feasibility that you can, with the simple line of code, you can manage the state or you can manage the conversational history, okay, to maintain the context, right, to maintain the context over the long iteration. So this is a very good feature that LangGraph gives, that you can save your state, you can save your context with the simplicity, with the simple line of code. The third advantage that it's flexible and control, right? Means if you want to control your workflow through conditional edges. So I mentioned, right, there are a couple of type of uh, uh, nodes and the edges are there, so you can have some conditional edges as well. If this condition met, then only goes to this process. If not, you can go. So including your loops, refine results, you can design your workflow. Okay, you have the flexibility to customize your workflow depending on your requirement, and you also able to control it, right, these actions. So these are the three advantages that LangGraph is giving. The first is manage the complexity, second is you can manage the state and the context, and the third is the flexibility control, and that's why the LangGraph is very much important. Okay, now the third is that what other tools are available if you want it. No, okay, so as I mentioned, the LangChain, right? The LangChain is the basic. With this also you can do the agentic workflow, but it is a acyclic workflow. LangChain is a acyclic workflow, so we prefer the LangGraph. Third is the qwen. Now the qwen is a low code platform. It's a very giving the higher level of abstraction. It is very good for the beginner, but if you want to build the agentic application with complex, which is generally the use case in industries, then the qwen is not the preferred one. The third is the autogen and the semantic kernel. Okay, so this is also good platform is there, a good to build the agentic. And I also recently, some days back, I have upload a video on the YouTube regarding how you can use the AutoGen to build a software architecture. Though it is just a theoretical, I mean to say, the information which is coming out this frame output is a theoretical, but it's good. You can just look at how I use AutoGen to build the multi-agent system, to build the architecture around it. So please, I would encourage you to just watch out how you can do this. Okay, but when it comes to the customization or easy of use and the underlying philosophy, it has some difficulties on AutoGen. Okay, so that is some other disadvantage AutoGen has. Okay. Now next is that why we need to choose the LangGraph. The first and the foremost reason is that the custom workflows are needed. Let's say and you require a custom like workflow which has a loop, branches and the state update, right? Then that time LangGraph is very good. Second, you have the control over it, means you have ability to control every step of the process, how state is need you feel to be updated, how the decisions to be happen, how the complex structure is there. Okay, you can control over it. The third is that the basic that the most popular framework we know that LangChain, you can easily integrate it, the LangChain. There is no extra things available. Even the LangGraph can be integrated with this ecosystem as there is a Langsmith is there, right? The Langsmith is helping you to monitor the workflow, right? So you can easily integrate it with the LangChain, Langsmith, and the LangServe as well for the deployment of the AI models, right? LLM kind of system, so you can easily integrate it with those systems, and that's the reason uh, I think you need to choose the LangGraph. Now there are few key terminology I think it is very important you need to understand. The first is the state. Okay, so when I state, the state is a shared data container that flows through your workflow, means this is the something that all your workflow uh, things must be aware, right? So it holds some information such as, for example, you require a conversation history that all nodes to be know, or you want some outputs needs to be written, right? Or any variable that you want that it needed across the node, right? So all these kind of informations are stored in this the state thing. Okay, so whenever I say state, state is the thing what is the information you want that my all nodes to be aware. Okay, so when node returns an update, you can append or you can modify the state to the subsequent nodes to have the latest context. Okay, now how you can use, we'll do a practical in the hello world kind of practical, you will come to know. The next is the node. Now what is node? Node is a something like a step or action in your workflow. Okay, what activity or what actions to be executed, that is nothing but the node. So it is typically a function, or you can say it's an agent. So when I say function, function maybe it can be a Python function or any programmatical function that you wanted to execute, or it may be a LLM call. It's not that every agents or every node require a LLM call. It may or may not, depending on the problem statement you are trying to solve, right? So sometime you may require some nodes to be do the LLM call, so you can build that around that, and you want some input, right? So some input from the previous state, previous node, right? So as I mentioned, the state is where all the information is stored which you want that other nodes to be aware. So those information can be input to the node. Okay, and then it produces the output. For example, one node might be responsible for generating the response from the chatbot, right? So this way you can only have the node which is only generate the output. Okay, so this wise you can have multiple nodes. Then next you have the something called as the edges, right? Now what is the edges? The edges is nothing but the you can say it's connecting connection between the nodes. Now there are two types of edges. One is the normal edges and another is a conditional edges. Normal edges is simply connecting one node to the next, while the condition edges is nothing to decide which nodes to be executed, okay, based on some certain conditions, right, or certain questions. So this is the third second parameter, that is a conditional edges. And the next parameter or the terminology you must have entry and finish point. So this define where your workflow is starting, okay, and where your workflow is ending. So it is nothing but the finish point, so that LangGraph knows the boundaries of your whole process. Okay, so I hope you understand this terminology, because we are going to use this terminology in our while building application based on the LangGraph. Okay, so first is the state. State is nothing but the it holding the context, it holding the information that you think that other nodes to be aware. Second is the node, it is something but the activity or steps you want to perform. So you can mention in the node, this node can be a simply a LLM function, or it can be a LLM call, or it can be a non LLM function, or it can be a simply LLM call. Then edges is nothing but the connection between the node. Now there are two type of edges, normal edges and conditional edges. Normal edges is nothing but the simply connecting the two nodes, and the conditional edges, it is a something based on certain criteria. It decide which paths to be followed or which nodes to connect next. And then most important, that entry and finish node. So entry is the point from where your LangGraph is going to start, and the finish the point where the LangGraph stop execution. So LangGraph understand the boundaries. So these are the very important terminology that you guys must aware about this. Okay, now some of the additional points, okay, before we start the practical. LangGraph has the ability to give the visualization. So whatever the workflow you build, it is of you build, you can visualize through simple code, so that you will understand what will be the flow of these things. Okay, and it is basically, it often use the mermaid tool to build this kind of visualization, and we will also see that. Again, error handling and persistence. So it has some advanced feature that the persistent, as I mentioned, it has a capability of state where you can store the information, but it also has some error recovery. Okay, so automatically understand the error. Okay, on some logic is behind there, and it do the recovery as well. So this is very good for the real world application. And the learning curve, so as it is very powerful, and it's make bit more time to master compared to other tool. But however, if you invest some time on this LangGraph, you can build a very enterprise level of application. Okay, so learning curve, I can say it's a good here. You will understand more and more while if you use this LangGraph for to build the agentic applications. Okay, so this is all about the theory. I hope I have given few time here before we start the practical, and definitely from moving forward the other uh, uh, while other lectures on this LangGraph will have less theory, but I want to give some time so that you understand few terminology before we trying out. Okay, now let's start this LangGraph. I will upload this notebook in my GitHub, from where you can download it. Okay, so before we start, we need to install few packages. So this is the, we want LangGraph, LangSmith, and LangChain groq. Okay, so why I'm using groq? The reason is very simple, because it's providing the free LLM access to the open source model. Okay, so you don't need to pay anything. So that's the reason I'm using the groq. Okay, so we need to install. I have already installed, so I'm not going to install it again. Then we are executing this line of code where we are asking the user to enter the groq API key. Okay, so let me just copy the groq API key. Okay, okay, now if anyone don't know how to get it, please go to the groq website. You can create your you can create the simple your login ID and go to the settings. There you can create the API key. It's very simple, it will not take more than minute, right? Then there is a something called as the typing annotated. Okay, so we are using this library to create our state. As I mentioned, right, the state is the part where you are storing the information, or where you want this information to be stored, right? And for that reason we are creating the this class called state. We are inheriting the type dict, and we are list and add message. So what happened when we are doing this, we are just extending, we want so add message. So let me go here. So we are importing some package from LangGraph called as a state graph start and end. As I mentioned, the state graph is a state where we want the information to persist, start from where we are going to start, and end. Also from the LangGraph messages, we are importing the add message functionality. What actually it does, rather than overwriting the conversation, okay, by the we do not want our latest conversation to be overwrite the existing. We want it need to be extended, right? And that's why this add message will help here. Okay, and then here we are creating the graph builder instance using our class state. So we are simply creating the object of the class state. Let me execute this. Okay, it's executed. Then we are using the chat groq. We are passing the model qwen. I'm using very simple qwen model because it's a very small, and We do not want very complex model, at least for this practical. Then we are creating a function called as a chatbot, and we are returning the message. So whatever the user message we are receiving, right, we are passing. So we are passing the state messages. So whatever messages we are having in our state, we wanted that messages to be passed to the LLM, and LLM should give answer based on that. Okay, so simple one liner code of this, and then we add this. So now this is my function, or this is what my activity I wanted to be performed. So I need to consider this as a node, and that's why we are using graph builder that we have created as an object, and we are adding this as a node, and I'm simply giving the chatbot as a name to my that node. Okay, so chatbot is a function and chatbot is the name to that node. Let me execute, right? Then after that we want a start point, right, and finish point. So we add age from my start to the chatbot. So start from where I'm going to start my LangGraph activity, and I want my chatbot to be executed. So I'm adding the age between start and the chatbot. After the chatbot, I want the linkage from my chatbot to the process end. So I'm adding again one more age from my chatbot to the end. And then I wanted to compile my whole this thing, right? So I'm not executing, I'm just compiling all this. I want the graph to be prepared. So this is what my workflow. Now if you want to look at the how it will look like, so there is a simple we are using IPython display functionality to visualize this. So you can just use graph.getGraph and raw mermaid png. So this is a line of code if you want to visualize how your workflow. So see, simple, I'm starting, then passing connecting s to chatbot, and then giving to the end. Fine. And then I want this to be executed iteratively. So this is the functions that we have here, that is a stream graph update, then user input str, and then we are passing the input to the LLM, and LLM is giving the answer. Okay, so this is what simple function we have here, right? And then this is simple Python where while true still is going, we are executing this bunch of code. So what we are doing here, we are taking the user input. If user says quit exit, we are quit that discussion, and then if not, we are asking if it is not okay, if this is not the quit, then we are just going to update our user input to our add message functionality. Okay, and it is keep adding there, and answer from the LLM is also adding in the state graph. So for that we have this functionality here. Okay, so please go through this code, and then if it is not, then if user asking just something else, then we can also uh, adding that answer and asking this. Okay, so this is the except block. Let me execute. Okay, so let's say ask something, what is capital of India. I'm just asking random question. Let's see. Okay, so capital is India. How many states India? Okay, so there are 28 states. Okay, great. So how is the weather? I hope this will not answer the question, uh, or let's say the answer the static question in the month of July. Okay, so it's giving some good question, right? Some answer. So you can see that it's a question answer things, right? So please, I think here is the at least the introductory information about LangGraph. It is simple to use, but yeah, we are going to build some complex question. So in today's we are just build a chatbot, but in next we will try to see how we can go move ahead and try to answer a question, try to identify the question which are not available to the chatbot, okay, or to the LLM model. I hope you understood. You can understood this lecture. Please follow along with me so that you can master on at least one of the agentic framework. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.